sign. Sorry, Nolan. We'd like to welcome everybody here tonight to the Cache County Council meeting on May 25th or 28th, 2024. We'll have our opening by Councilmember Nolan Gunnell.
I'd just like to take a few minutes where yesterday was Memorial Day. I hope you guys all had a chance to think about our veterans and those who have served. I had the awesome opportunity of being in Wellsville for a neat program to recognize our veterans in that. And if words cannot repay the debt we owe these men, surely with our actions we must strive to keep faith with them and with the vision that led them to battle and to final sacrifice. Ronald Reagan. Our flag does not fly because the wind moves it. It flies with the last breath of each soldier that died protecting it. I think those are some words that hopefully we will remember, that we are sitting here today because some men and women sacrificed a lot. And I hope we will always remember that. I know that I do, and I appreciate them. And with that, I'll say my opening remarks in the form of a prayer. Our Father in heaven, we come before thee this day. We give thanks for the many blessings that we have. We're grateful for this country. We acknowledge those men and women who are serving today and in the past, who have given us these freedoms and these opportunities, the land of the free and the home of the brave. May we always remember and cherish them. And when those families who have seen the sacrifice so hard on them be blessed and carried forth when the darkest of nights weigh upon them. We're grateful for this opportunity. We're grateful for this chance to be here. We ask that we will do so in a manner that is pleasing unto thee. And this we say in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Now, if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nolan. Appreciate that. Let's go ahead and I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous, except for we do need to recognize that Catherine Buse is absent tonight. How about the approval of the minutes of May 14th?
I'll move approval of those minutes. I read through them and didn't see anything that was glaringly.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of May 14th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Also unanimous. Report from the county executive.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to mention I had a great meeting with a couple council members last week, and we talked about the budget process, which we are kicking off. I know it seems like we just finished our budget for this year, but we're starting the process of meeting with department heads and gathering information, and we're going to be working on probably a slightly modified schedule to get things going a little faster this year. Got some good input from some council members about that, and we'll probably come back with a revised schedule with some expedited timeframes. Hopefully in the next week or so we'll have that ready for you, so I'll send that out to you. And then also just wanted to mention my son has an orchestra thing at 6:30 tonight, so I'll probably take up about 6. Just want to apologize in advance that I'll have to leave early. And that concludes my report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Items of special interest, we'll just dive right into those. 6A, the updating of the emergency interim successors for local officers. Mr. Will Lusk, please. Now, this is going to be the short version.
The short
that gets
version.
us done with what we need, and then the long version comes in a workshop and training when we come down to the emergency.
Absolutely, yep. And Nolan started out with a quote by President Ronald Reagan. I have to add one to it. My favorite one is President Reagan's been known to say the scariest words in the English language are, "I'm here from the government and I'm here to help." And when it comes to emergency management and disasters, I often have to leave with that one. The emphasis on the word leave, not lead, with that one, because I often get invited out of the room when I when I talk about disasters. But long story short, it's that time of year, and I apologize I have not been here before this time with you. We do have some legislation on the books for the state of Utah that we need to make sure we get accomplished here in Cache County, and just need to hurry and go down the list with you of to-dos so that we get it done. You should have a packet in front of you with a copy of the Emergency Management Act to the state of Utah. That is the to-do list for us. Has three very important things that we both need to take care of and or make sure that we dot the i's and cross the t's on. First one is everybody wants to know how do they get information on a disaster when a disaster strikes. Task number one is the designation of the alert and warning system and or training for those that push the magic red button when disaster strikes. We have an alert warning system in place here in Cache County. It's called, nationally, it's called the Emergency Alert System or the Integrated Public Alert Warning System. The software that we use here in Cache County is called Code Red. You should have a flyer in your packet that talks about what Code Red is, how it's used, and how one goes about registering for it here in Cache County. I won't ask for a raise of hands of who has or who hasn't. I'm just going to ask you as elected officials if you would make sure that you have done it so that when disaster strikes and or if we are alerted at the Emergency Coordination Center that one is coming our way, so the information in your hands as council and elected officials as quickly as possible. That is task number one. We are required by state law to work with the state of Utah to both have that system in place, as well as I'm happy to report that we also test that system. The Integrated Public Alert Warning System gets tested on a monthly basis so that we don't launch any fake nukes and or do what our fellow emergency managers in Hawaii did a few years ago, send out a wrong message and panic the people. Two, the other task is designation of elected officials. Two levels of designation of emergency and elected officials in the state code. On the last page, I think, of your handout talks about the designation of emergency management and having an emergency operations plan. In conjunction with that law, worked with the good sheriff, and we have designated the line of succession for the county emergency manager. If the bus hits me or I clutch my heart and go down and you can't bring me back, my replacement is first my good assistant, Kevin Christensen. He works with me at the Office of Emergency Management. Then the Lieutenant Doyle Peck with the Sheriff's Office. And then certainly last but not least, the good sheriff, designation of emergency manager. That fulfills that requirement, as well as the other piece on that one. We are required by the state of Utah to have a designated and or adopted emergency management plan on file and or making sure that we are ready to go should said disasters occur. Once more, our plan is in place. It is probably in need of being reviewed and or repromulgated by the council and our elected officials. The last time it was brought and up to be redone was in 2013. So it's coming up on 10, 11 years now. It's probably a great opportunity to get in conjunction with you and the other department heads here in Cache County and take a hard look at it, see if it's still effective in doing what it is we hope it will do when disaster strikes. We've had opportunities to exercise it. Last year, as you know, we exercised much of the emergency operations plan in responding to the flooding that occurred in Cache County as well as around the state of Utah. We're still very excited about the things that are happening, and many good things did happen in regards to the flooding last year in regards to the response. I won't say that washed out roads and some of the natural hazards and side effects of the flooding haven't caused us a little bit of grief financially and or operationally in regards to accessing both public lands and private lands, but Public Works has been doing a wonderful job bringing our roads, bridges, and infrastructure back online and in operating condition. We did not qualify for any federal assistance or presidential declaration here in Cache County, which was both good and bad. Good that we didn't have to put in the request for the federal dollars. Bad that we didn't have to put in a request for the federal dollars. But we take both the good and the bad. Some of the damages that are still needing to be worked on, Matt Phillips, Public Works, and the powers that be are working as best they can with our own local dollars to repair roads, bridges, and the infrastructure. But emergency operation plan and emergency manager are needed items. Once more, that we just need to make sure we take care of them locally and let the state of Utah know by July 1. The other one is the designation of interim successors for elected officials. David should be working on that one. We've worked with his office the last 3 years to designate line of succession for the executive's office. That is another one in state law that we are required to do on a yearly basis, as well as has a deadline by July 1. And I think David should be both aware and ready to go with that one. And we should be able to meet the July 1 deadline on that one without any conflict or problems. Last but not least is the opportunity also for yearly training and exercising. It did miss many of you last month for the earthquake exercise. I know it was a busy night. Many of you were down to conferences and other meetings. But in order to do my job correctly, I do need to find a time to get with you, get you around a table and make sure that we are ready to go as elected officials and officers on a yearly basis. We've had great opportunity with department heads and with first responders so far this year to complete the recommended incident command system training as well as the national incident management system training. But haven't had the opportunity yet to corner you good folks and get you yours. One of the items in your packet that makes it such a large packet this evening is this one entitled the Cache County Council Guide to Disaster Operations. It is the Cliff Notes to this one. You can have your choice. You can read the big one or the little one. It mattereth not to me. All I would say is council and elected officials, you really need to become familiar with what we do, how we do it, and why we do it here in Cache County so that if it does strike tomorrow, that we don't have to figure out in the middle of the disaster what it is we're supposed to be doing. Would love to do a workshop with you and or the elected officials at least a couple times a year to keep you up to speed. There is a lot that does happen on a yearly basis, both with disasters and emergency management. It's been a busy spring, even though we've had no major disasters. We've kept the eye out for political unrest. We've had space weather in two different types, geomagnetic storms and solar eclipses that caused a little bit of interference for communication systems, but we seem to weather it well. Don't have any records of anybody getting lost in the mountains and their GPS not working and or 700 or 800 megahertz radios not being able to get out. Our neighbors to the north of us across the border into Idaho had a landslide that came down on the West Cache Canal back in February. We were up there 2 weeks ago, and I'm happy to report they have got the mountain of soil off the canal. Water is flowing again, and we are able to irrigate and farm here in Cache County. So life is good. Emergency management wise, appreciate the opportunity to work with all of you and or to take a few minutes with you tonight just to bring you up to speed on what it is we need to do and why we need to do it, and hope that as we move forward, I can get your cooperation and or find a time on your busy calendar when we can both exercise and or train to make sure we're ready to go. And with that, I'm done. Any
Appreciate
questions
you.
any of you have?
Yeah, we appreciate you very much, but I know we might have a few questions, so Sandy, if you had a question?
I do. Will, can you tell us the per capita impact indicator and project thresholds? What
Oh.
does that
Super.
chart
Thank you.
indicate?
I forgot that one, and that's what, one of the things I needed to bring to your attention. It's not anything that we need to act on. You just need to know and be aware that every year, the threshold indicators go up due to the consumer price index. The federal government uses the consumer price index and the threshold indicators as a way to, in many circumstances, to determine how much money or what the funding levels need to be before the federal government will kick in. And or it is one of the many criteria that they use that we have to meet in order to get federal dollars post-disaster. Threshold indicator at the countywide indicator is $4.60. Times that number by the population here in Cache County, which I think is somewhere in the vicinity of 144,000 people, and you come up with a figure just over $500,000. Okay, I don't have my calculator here to do it. If somebody's got a calculator, you could get us an exact one. But you can see how the threshold indicator has gone up over the years to try and keep pace with inflation. Long story short, it's a good indicator of how much money we locally need to keep in the bank in regards to responding to disasters. Post-disaster, when a disaster declaration is issued, it is one of the criteria that the federal government uses as have the locals done due diligence and or is there really truly a need for bringing in both federal assets and federal reimbursement. Long story short, if you do the math with the 144,000 times the 460, is $662,400 would be what Cache County would need to cover on its own or be willing to match on its own before federal either public assistance or individual assistance dollars would come to bear. I know that might be pocket change for some departments here in Cache County, but in the emergency management budget, that's about 9 years worth of money in the emergency management budget. The question come up, so where does Cache County get that kind of money? Hopefully that would either be in a reserve, if we have reserve funds, and or two, it can be matching money. If we have volunteer hours, if we have other monies that we have put in responding to a disaster, purchasing sandbags or emergency equipment or paying responders. Those are all monies that we can utilize for the match for that $662,400. And that is how we would get there to be able to pull down the federal dollars. Sadly, the federal dollars are a 75-25 match. We would still be on the hook for 25% of whatever dollar figure we needed to replace the infrastructure and or help the individuals locally. And then the federal government would kick in with the 75%. Similarly, the 25% is something that we can reach either through similarly emergency responders, wages, manpower, equipment, and or protective measures that we would undertake as a county to get to that point. But Sandy, thank you for reminding me of that. I do need to bring that to your attention because it has gone up for 2024 a few cents, but a few cents times population makes a whole lot of dollars in the end. So I needed to bring that one to your attention too. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Thank you.
Other questions? We'll get that arranged. We have that workshop and that other training down there at the emergency center, and
Super.
we'll get that all put together because we do have new members on the council as well, and that'll be great that we have that.
Yep, look forward to the opportunity to have you down and or go through the training.
So everything's all in line then for June 1st, right?
The only thing that I think is still out there is David, I know, is working to complete the line of succession for the executive's office, and then we will be complete.
Okay,
Yep, our goal is to stay compliant with state law.
we appreciate you very much.
Yep, thank you,
Thank you.
council.
Okay, Cash Economic Opportunity Board. Councilmember Mark Hurd, are you gonna
Stand at the podium, if that's okay.
do a song and dance with Sean? That's pretty good.
He'll carry the singing, and I,
Oh.
you know I don't dance.
Be prepared to be disappointed.
Do have a, yeah, slideshow here. that
So
Sean
I
put
wondered
together.
why everyone came tonight.
This must be it, right?
All for your presentation. That's terrific.
It was good.
I just had it up. There we go.
Now, the presentation you sent to us,
Yeah, that should be the same that's on the screen. Up and down, yep, okay. Okay, thank you, council. So we'll just go with a quick mid-year update on the CEO board and the activities and things we've participated in so far this year. For Sandy and for David, this will be mainly a recap as they are also members of the board. It's not advancing, Sean. Right now.
Well, that's awkward. It did it a second ago. There we go. Up, down.
Okay, we'll work with our technology here. So this slide, oh, we're going to jump a bunch.
boy, that's a good presentation there.
Yeah, we're moving quick.
Keep it going.
So if you got all those names, that was the members of the board and also a list of calendar items.
Auctioneer style.
Only I could make that work. I just can't get that roll like an auctioneer. All right, we'll see how long this lasts. There we go. It's jumped back already, so I'll hit it once. Okay, so here's the list of the board members. Currently, I get the privilege of serving as the chair, and I'm grateful for that opportunity. And each term, as you can see, is a 2-year term. Got Councilmember Goodlander and Executive Zook, and myself representing the county elected officials. Sean Milne and Alma Burgess as ex officio members who represent the council, or the county, but are non-voting members, as well as Mark Alexander, Brian Carver, Jamie Andrus, and Kurt Jensen representing the other categories or positions for representation. This next slide will show, there we go, points out that at the end of this year, we will have 4 terms expiring, and we will work towards getting appointments or reappointments in place between now and by, we have to have it done before December, but plan to have it early fall. So, by way to start off the mid-year update, on average, we've met every other month, and we're looking to, the majority of the meetings consist of just updates on conversations from the prior meeting, particularly grant updates, review of local projects, studies we've participated in or anticipate or are moving forward with, and looking at additional future opportunities. Some of the things recently we've participated in, discussions about the Northern Utah Ag Report, and the council's familiar with funding opportunities that we've approved and received through that effort. So the majority, well, not majority, specifically some of the items we focus on are the impacts with impact to ranching and agriculture in our community, given that those 2 areas carry such a high relevance in our ecosystem. Recruitment of agri-tech is a big part of our community, Utah State being responsible for a lot of that interest, as well as then the supporting efforts that take place in the private sector. I should actually say that in the reverse, the private sector activities and then the supporting efforts from Utah State and other entities. Yeah, I think I'll advance through that. One recent grant we participated in was Rural County Grant Part B, which brought $25,000 to the community in support of adding daycare available so that either single-family parents or both members of the heads of household could rejoin the workforce post-COVID. Another thing that felt like we ought to pull into this conversation is some activity that's been taking place with the Bear River Watershed Council. That group, with many others, has pulled together a Regional Economic Values of the Bear River report. And obviously, I'm not expecting you all to read the fine print, but some details from that report is just a reminder that about 40% of the water that ends up in the Great Salt Lake comes from the Bear River watershed, which makes it the largest single contributor of water to the lake. That's part of the purpose for the formation of these watershed councils, is so that as the efforts move forward to revitalize and keep strong the Great Salt Lake, we also factor in each watershed and the value to local water users and the need for strengthening all the watersheds, not just taking for the Great Salt Lake. Oh, sorry, there it is again, on the 40%. Let's see, with Bear River irrigation being the water used mainly, obviously, for crops and livestock, the majority water used. The Bear River Basin crops generate about $510 million in annual revenue, and the Bear River Basin livestock and livestock product sales generate about $350 million in annual revenue, as part of the details contained in this study. Additional, with 70% of all crops and livestock annual revenue coming from products exported outside of the 10-county area, be it that the Bear River runs through 3 states, 10 counties. So the whole region, the entire watershed is factored into this report. An overview of the numbers and in the overall report, which is about, remind me, Sean, is an 80-page document, about 80 pages. This is the high overview, or at least the slide that summarizes well the fact, some of the details like I mentioned, the crops, livestock there, Great Salt Lake Minerals, being the top three in the market value pulled from different sectors related to water consumption in the Bear River watershed. Top chart there quantifying that there's significant output value generated by the Bear River and the related economy in each of our lives and impacting our communities. Remind me, Sean, is the number about 200,000 people in the Bear River watershed?
It's more than that, but 250, something.
250,000, okay. So another portion of the the CEO board's activities is focused on targeting recruitment and increasing local jobs in aerospace. Again, referring to Utah State and the excellent and super impactful facilities and services that we have with the Space Dynamics Lab, in particular to this subject. Our community is instrumental in the space of aerospace. One notable detail to that point is as this says, the existing momentum of the SmallSat conference that Space Dynamics Lab sponsors, Utah State sponsors, is the largest small satellite conference in the world and indicates how significant the Space Dynamics Lab is in aerospace. So the targeted recruitment and increase of local jobs, these are some of the local businesses that are considered in the aerospace and deep tech economy. We have engaged with members from these organizations and plan to have a kind of like one-on-one opportunities with them to recap the trade mission, which I'll mention in a couple slides, and facilitate. The idea really with the CEO board is just to ensure to support the local activities and ensure that we are giving the proper focus to this critical industry for not only our community existing, but also to draw and bring in additional activity and supporting how critical it is for our national defense, our personal securities. Some details on these businesses that were shown, just a breakdown based on what's publicly listed as, the Campbell Scientific, as an example, has over 300 employees locally. TTM and Summit Interconnect are large corporations. Their local numbers is unknown, but many thousands around the globe, as they are global companies. The trade mission that I mentioned, so back in the first part of April, trade mission was organized by this group 47G. Their mission is to build the world's premier ecosystem for aerospace, defense, and cyber companies. The good news is that is northern Utah, and we are a part of that. And by nature of our participation in these markets or in the aerospace industry, we were invited to, Sean Milne and I and others from the council, the invitation was extended that we participate in the trade mission that they organized to Taiwan. Again, there's some details, just the purpose for the visit, increase international trade, and basically, I think, summarize that, let them know we have that capability here to support the work that they are doing there. Breakdown of some of the delegation We had companies from the area, as well as one from California that will be locating to Utah, anticipates locating to Utah anyway, as well as 3D Systems from our neighboring state of Colorado. You can see Cache County, Tooele County, Utah State were represented there as well. Down here on the bottom right corner was a list of the counterparts that we were meeting with in Taiwan. These are, this is a screenshot of the agenda, the basically 4 active days in country. More detail there, and we can get in any time council members want to talk about this in detail, we could get more in depth, but for sake of time, I will advance forward. And we met with the American Chamber of Commerce in Taiwan. Great, personally, I thought it was great to see how strong and how vibrant the relationship already is in Taiwan with the United States and Taiwan's economies. That also highlights the point how critical it is for Taiwan's economy and its impact on our economy here, as well as our economy in the U.S. for given the security and the political climate they are dealing with currently. Sean, anything you want to mention, as I was not able to attend this meeting, this portion of that trip? Okay. Same thing. So here's just some pictures of meetings or individuals we met with, as well as some exchanges. You know, the important part of these pictures, at least in my mind, is to demonstrate that, as is customary to exchange gifts, we were able to provide a little piece of Cache Valley and share the Cache Valley photograph book that we do offer here at the Tourist Center. It's part of the gifts that we exchanged in meeting with the people. And then, of course, on the bottom right, the little Indiana Jones type graphic to show you traveling the world in a 13-hour flight is a pretty intense flight. Part of the trip, so this is kind of like a case study example. By nature of my employment, I was also able to spend a day with a supplier that turned out to be something that came up because my boss's boss found out I was going to be in Taiwan, and he's like, while you're there, you need to go visit these guys. So we made arrangements with the group, and they were supportive, given that it supports the mission of actually strengthening our trade and demonstrating the global economics of our situation currently in Cache Valley as well. So briefly, I'll just go over some of the details about the company I work for and the company that we visited. So MKS Instruments is a global electronics company. This chart just shows where we have facilities located. Because of the United States government's current position of a one China diplomatic approach, Taiwan, shown here, is listed blue and stated only as part of China, but yeah, I'll leave that alone. So 47G was willing to accept that I take one day away from the rest of the group and go on my side quest, if you will call it that, because I fit the 3 categories here of strengthening roles with our partners, buyers, and suppliers in Taiwan, be it my role as buyer planner, my day job. This is the agenda for the day to visit OSE, which stands for Orient Semiconductor Electronics. They are a big semiconductor manufacturer globally. Purpose for the visit is we have a very large contract taking place currently, and we were working through supply chain challenges and developing a production schedule and delivery schedule. Some details about MKS, just as a highlighting one of the companies here in Cache Valley. Obviously, not all these numbers are relevant to our workforce only in Cache Valley, but we are a part of a $3.6 billion annual revenue company. With 10,000 employees worldwide, the significant thing for our site, which is located in North Logan, is this top right corner where MKS addresses over 85% of the wafer fabrication equipment market in the world globally. And the equipment that we manufacture in North Logan is incredibly significant to the extreme UV systems. Those are the systems used, in short, to scribe on microprocessing circuit boards. MKS, another unique thing about our site locally is that MKS has these 3 categories for their significant sectors, and our site fits all 3 in significant ways. More detail about those 3 sites, but for sake of time, I'll jump over it. Just to point out on the top right here, the UV nanosecond pulse lasers, without systems like ours, those systems could not function correctly. Just an example of why during that trade mission my boss wanted me to visit. OSE is the supplier. On the left here is 2022 and 2023 numbers. I spent with them about $5 million last year, and we've already spent $4 million with them this year. So significant growth, and the project that I was there for has a lot of high visibility from corporate. Again, stressing the point, the significance of our relationship locally with the economies of Taiwan. Oop, wrong button. Yeah, so this slide here, just summarizing the, obviously we want to continue the dialogue with not only members of the delegation that we participated with on the trip, but also the local businesses that are already in the aerospace and defense market, the deep tech market, and help introduce them to the counterparts that we met while on the trade mission. Some of the schedule, so jumping away from the trade mission now, some of the schedule moving forward for the CEO board. We'll just work through the continued reporting. We've got some grant updates coming. We'll continue to evaluate the effectiveness of our fiscal year 24 programs and review upcoming proposals for fiscal year 25. Yeah, the timeline there. Yep, that's it. So any particular questions and maybe Sean, anything you feel like I should have mentioned that I have not?
Nope, I'm gonna take a lesson from Mr. Chairman, who always tries to emphasize I need to be brief. So happy to address any particular questions, otherwise just here to be support.
Thank you for going.
No questions? I'll
I don't have any questions.
sit down. Okay. Thank you for your
Sounds
time.
like a great project.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, Sean. Sean pulled it all together, and I just got to talk to him.
Well, thank you. Let's go ahead and, we are a little bit late in setting this public hearing, but down there at 9A, I'll entertain a motion. Set the public hearing for June 11th.
I'll move that we set a public hearing for June 11th, 2024 for ordinance 2024-05, quarter end ventures property rezone.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded that we set that public hearing for June 11th, 2024 for that ordinance 2024-05, quarter end ventures property rezone. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's taken care of. Let's go to 10A, consideration and approval of the RAPS board decisions. And I'll open that up to the council and the council only right now. Go ahead and if you have some questions, if you have some ideas, changes, let's bring those up and let's have that dialogue as such.
Well, I'll start out, I guess. I'll just reiterate what I brought up last meeting. Has to do with the feasibility study for a county-wide recreation center. And where I'm not opposed to the recreation center itself, I think delegating $200,000 to a feasibility study is a way overreach at this point. We don't even have any idea what a feasibility study would cost. I think that if we were to say set aside 40,000 and then set out an RFP and see what kind of responses we get and what kind of cost we're actually looking at, and if it turns out that it's warranted, that more money should be spent on that, then we still have funds available that we could employ to do that. But I think at the outset, I think $40,000 is a sufficient amount of money to set aside for the RFP for that. Again, we don't have any idea what it would really cost. We don't have any idea even what the parameters are that we want to address as we consider a recreation center. And so that would be my significant proposal. The other would be to increase the funding to the zoo by $50,000 to their request of $320,000.
Okay, I'll entertain these in form of motions as amendments to what has been presented to us, or if you want just to, it be just discussion right now and we formulate it all together, it's open for whichever you'd like to do.
I'd like to keep discussing it.
Okay.
What did you say, Sandy?
I
She
said
wants
I'd like to keep
keep
discussing it.
discussion.
Oh,
Yeah, so would I.
Well, but the thing is, as far as discussing, if there are these changes and you want these in the form of an amendment that we vote on them to get those changes in, that's fine. Or if we just want to just ideas of discussion, that's fine too.
Well, I'll make a motion.
Mark's
that
down
we,
there, Mark's down there actually trying to, he looks like he wants to say something.
Stumbling
Yeah,
over, I
that's-
just didn't want to interrupt, but, yeah, I in agreement with what Councilman Ward has said, I do feel like, given how broad and how big a feasibility study would be for countywide rec center, $40,000 just first pass to me seems like maybe enough to say we did it, but not enough to say we did it right. Not knowing what the, cost would be or how the RFP is going to come together, I mean, if the RFP comes back and it's less, then we don't have to spend the money, but if we haven't approved it, then we, if we don't have it set aside, then we can't go any farther. And if we don't, my point is, if we're going to look at it, let's look at it correctly. Meaning, I want to make sure we don't hamstring the project from the beginning by underfunding it. Not suggesting that that's what you were saying, Carl, but just, to me, $40,000 seems like not enough to get it right in the first pass.
Well, when we don't even know what the scope of the project is or should be, I just feel like $200,000 is an enormous amount of money to pay to a consultant to look at things that we know, for the most part, ourselves.
Yeah, I can agree with that too. And so, given that, but what we're missing and what I would be looking for out of the feasibility study would be not only the list of, here's the options for how you could make a countywide rec center function, but, that from that list, we would have to choose which options we would support and how to fund them. And if we're too narrow in scope, or we have to narrow the scope because we don't have enough funding to cover as broad of a study as we need, at least by need I'm suggesting, I want to see the whole picture and then we start making choices rather than get a report that is already trimmed. See what I'm saying? And then in addition to that, I also want to talk about the scope because I think it's more than just a county rec center. I think we'd be wise to consider it as a community center effort, which could mean we pull in some existing programs we already have, like, and I think Sandy's probably gonna speak to this, or should, it certainly is better capable of speaking to the need for, than I am, but pulling the senior center, some of the ongoing discussion we've had there, and, I mean, even the countywide library program, those kinds of things, we could share facilities, and then therefore, overall, the cost is a less impact for we, the people of Cache County, so I certainly want to talk about scope as well.
Well, I'd like to add, I'm gonna go a little bit more than what Carl did. I was gonna go with 50,000 to start it. But I totally agree with Carl that we don't even know, what it's gonna cost or anything like that, and to throw $200,000 into a study that we're not sure is going to take place, just to me is not the right thing to do. I'm not against the feasibility study. I want to make that clear. I am not against that. But the cost that is being asked for $200,000 to me is over what we can at least start with. And I agree with the feasibility study. The people of the county have a right to let their opinions be known and be educated on it. That's every right on that, but I think that we need a starting point, and hopefully they can get an RFP and then come back to us and let us know what's going on with
We've
that.
got $1.3 million in excess funds, I think, so.
I thought it
Or
was
no,
just
it's
three,
not
I
million
thought it was
three.
just 300, but I could
Just
be
under
wrong.
400,000.
But, I mean, that should be sufficient to cover any additional funding needed, should we determine that we need it.
I agree with you, Carl. The other thing I'd like to say, thank you to everyone who contacted me, either by email, by phone, personally, whatever. I appreciated all of the contacts, and I had some good conversations with people. I really appreciated them. I read all of them. I looked through what they had to say, and to be quite honest, it was close to half and half on, what I saw. Some of them are against, not the study, but paying for the recreation center. Some of them, of course, were very pro on it. So I think we do need to get that out there so that we can get a better idea of, what the people are wanting, that the people in the county are wanting. So I'm agreeable for the study. It's just that I think we need to be a little conservative as to the amount that we're willing to put out there right at the first. And I'm in no way against them coming back later once we get an RFP on it.
Thank you, Barbara, I agree. $50,000 would be fine too.
Anyone else from the council want to speak?
I do.
Go ahead.
I was gonna come with a proposal of 100,000. And here's my, and a lot of that comes from the people in my district, and the voices that I hear are very much for this. But I want to make sure that we as council members have our voice heard in setting the scope of the study that's done. And I think there's several questions, like, are the school districts willing to be a partner? They'll be using facilities quite a bit. Can we get comprehensive data that says, what if the data comes back and says that everybody in this corridor right here, the North Logan, Nibley kind of corridor, is really for a rec center, but the people in the surrounding parts of the valley don't want to pay for it? How do you balance that? So I would hope that the feasibility study would quantify where the people are and what their voices are. And I just think it's such an important thing that it's done correctly, so that at the very end, like even contacting other counties that have a rec center, how much do you funnel into it every year? What are the administration costs? Would you do it again if you had the choice? Those are all really important things, and I think that's the scope of that feasibility study needs to give us all that information, and then the people in our county can say, if they have every bit of information that helps them to make the best decision for what we want to do. And I just want to, I just think it's really important that we stay involved too, because we have to make the final decision to make sure that our voices are heard in the feasibility scope, so that we can have a look at that and make sure that the feasibility study isn't channeled to a specific end, that we get everything. And so my vote would be to put $100,000 for that study. But I also understand that if we're willing to, when the RFP comes back, if we're willing to look at the additional funds for it, then that's a good thing too. So that's my thoughts.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Nolan?
So again, to the public, thanks for the emails. I read every one of them. Thanks for the calls. I also set motion. I called 11 mayors throughout the county and asked them for their information. Sandy pointed out we have a group here in the concentrated area that are very for the recreation center. I could say 10 or 10 and a half of the mayors that I spoke to are not on board of this. And so, but I see that a recreation center is something that, as I read the emails and that they want to do with. So I'm trying to weigh what's going on with what the mayors told me, what's going on with citizens, and what's going on with a lot of things. I reached out to the Development Services Office also to talk about some of the feasibility studies. I did a little research because a lot of the emails told me that, hey, there's been a lot of feasibility studies done before. The one thing that I found as I talked with mayors is it has been an understanding that this RAPS money is distributed to these municipalities through the county so that they can do projects and get things going, and they've been going along with this assumption. And so in 2023, we gave $54,500 towards feasibility studies, and that was to the Cache County Development Services Office so they could work on trails, which helps the whole county. The only other feasibility study that I found was in 2015, $11,000 was done for the Cache Events study. So if I keep up with what the mayors have told me and we distribute money like we've been doing to these municipalities, it helps get the money from RAPS tax out into these communities, which I live in an unincorporated area, but I associate myself with Wellsville. That's my area. And so when Wellsville builds a pickleball court or trails, it benefits me too. If Richmond or Lewiston does some of those things, the unincorporated in an area get to take part of that. So I have wrestled with this because I agree that a feasibility study will hopefully guide us, because as I talked with some of these people in the outlying areas, having a recreation center in certain parts of the county doesn't help other parts of the county, as they have told me. Now, I suspect that there are those who will help and all of that. So getting this 100% on the head is going to be a very, very tough proposal. But I am, and I can be with Carl and Barbara and Sandy in some of that area. I just don't know where. I agree that if we get the RFP started, they can come back and we work on that. But I really, really, really want to help these mayors who have been on this work and ability of saying, okay, I want some RAPS money. It helps me do it, because some of our outlying communities have no tax revenue. It's just very, very hard for them to get money to do any project, any trails, or any of those other things. We have big communities who have a lot of tax revenue, and so it helps these other communities when we give them some RAPS money. And as I went through this 2 weeks ago, I was like, gosh, we got some communities that are not getting very much money, and I would like to see them get it. And so, citizens, please believe me when I say I'm not against a recreation center. I'm not against a feasibility study, but I am speaking for these outlying communities that we need to help and get RAPS money to them, but also figure a way out that this study, and just like was mentioned, of how we focus in the encompass of it. I've had many people email me. For instance, I had a discussion today that talked about the Nephi Recreation Center. It's a recreation center that the community uses, but it does not open to the community on the weekends. They put it up for tournaments and everything else, and they draw in money. That's a pro and a con, because most of your residents are available on the weekend and they can't be used. So there's some tough things there, and I think if we work through this, we can find a way to make this work. It's just as I sat here 2 weeks ago, the size of the feasibility study caused me some hesitancy. Still does, but I want to get some money back to the communities to do their projects. As I looked over those, I think there's some communities we can help. And I'm in the realm of, and I don't know where the right area is. I mean, I can see that there's a lot of support. I wish that the survey said, do you want a recreation center, which it did, but that's like me going to Maddox and starting with a pie, and then they say, do you want a ribeye steak with that? Of course I do, but now how do I pay for it? So how we pay for the recreation center, I think, is a big part, but I suspect that's where the feasibility comes in from there. So a lot of rambling, but I'm putting a lot of credibility into 11 mayors that I called and talked to. I didn't get everybody. I left messages with some of the offices, but I did talk with 11, and so they expressed concern. A lot of them felt that we're changing the process of the RAPS tax midstream of what we have been doing in the past. And that's why I went back to look at the feasibility studies and what we've done. I hope that if we do feasibility studies that we look at the policy, so we have a guideline going forward that says this much or this percent can go towards feasibility studies. This seems like a elephant to bite into, to chew onto with this much money. Could we appropriate some each year towards feasibility studies? I hope. I've talked with Development Services on some of their requests. They did get some money last year, and they've upped the amount that they're asking for this year, but they're willing to forego some of that money, and I appreciate that because I want to use that to go to some communities. And I agree, if we can get to an RFP and then they come back and we see what's there, at least gets me to the point that I get to, or we as a council get to the point where we can say to some of these communities, here, get going on your projects that you're ready to go. So I think we have to decide where we're at on what will meet the RFP amount, because I personally think the feasibility study is a big portion of our budget, but I see that there's some benefit of a study of a recreation center and some citizens want it. But I also see I'm concerned for some of our citizens who, can we bear this tax burden? And as a council, we've got to sit here and say, okay, what are the needs that are going to have to be coming before this council this year from a tax standpoint, and what are the wants? We very much have some needs that are before the council that are going to possibly mean tax increases. And I'm feeling heavy about that, because if I pass something that will in the future bring some tax upon them, that's careful too. I've also had those express that as we keep going to projects are taking a bigger and bigger part of the RAPS money, which we're hoping to pass on to communities. And I want to make sure that this doesn't keep weighing down what we're being able to award to communities, because I think this is an awesome program. And if we meet those requests by also fulfilling the communities, then we've done a great thing. And so I want to balance that out.
Thanks, Nolan. You said everything that I was thinking.
Thank you.
It took me a long time, but I've been doing a lot of talking, so, and a lot of reading. I read every email. I took every phone call. I highlighted things, I took notes. Mayor Peterson, you said a note in there that if we did a study, then we're able to get a grant and some money in there. There's where I focused on. I don't want to miss a grant, but I don't want to slide 11 mayors who were looking for some money from RAPS tax and who've been waiting for that to happen for them as well. So I'm trying to balance this, and it is a hard thing to do. So as I said in my emails, I'm trying my very, very best. That's why I've reached out to so many people on this.
Other comments?
I would like to add a few changes.
Yeah.
I have received a couple emails
Ready for these? Okay.
from Beaver Creek Lodge Trails. They requested $18,451. I would be willing to, and they were awarded 0. I would be willing to put 10,000 towards that. The other thing that
On that, can we address that? real
Yeah, can we
quick?
address that?
yeah, go ahead.
I know that, why that was not awarded
Okay,
was that it was basically on private ground. And it's a private entity business and everything, and that there, I don't know, that we just couldn't feel justified in taking, taxpayer money into, unless there was something that could be set up with right-of-ways, that whatever it may be for that trail, He says that the public can use it, but we've got to have, there needs to be something more solid before we start using taxpayer money on it. That's what the RAPS committee at that time felt.
And I got an email from that, but I don't think the rest of you got an email on it, or did you?
Yeah,
from
I did.
Mr. Smoot?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so maybe we put that in deferral like we're talking on some of this other, because he brought out some interesting points.
Yeah, we just don't want to be in another situation where there's a public trail that gets blocked eventually by a private
Right.
landowner because there wasn't an agreement in place before the trail was put in. So that
Yeah,
was,
that's
that was what
understandable.
Catherine said.
Yeah, okay.
That was, I remember that was the dialogue that we just
Yeah.
talked about on that.
Okay, so can I bring up two things? I would-
Well, Barbara, were you done with your,
No.
No,
okay, let Barbara finish and we'll go from there.
Sorry.
No,
And
you're good.
now, well, we need to make these suggestions, and any of these changes, or would be amendments to this proposed, that we could then accept them. Do you want to accept them one-on-one as we go, or want to talk about them then, or what do you want?
I'd like to go to the discussion, then we get down to the brass tacks of what we recommend or whatever. So, if possible, I would like two people to address this. I don't want to open it up, but we have a mayor. Just a short is all I'm asking for, so to,
let's let Barbara finish what she wants.
hey, did I interrupt you again? Well, fire me and hire me back cheaper, or just kick me out of here, so,
Go ahead,
All right,
Barbara.
I do
my
need.
apologies.
You're good. I do need to know, as far as Wellsville goes, to me, city sidewalks and walking paths are very important in a community. And they asked for 46.5, but again, were awarded 0. What was the, discussion behind that? Can anyone remember?
I remember that the dialogue at that point was that to fund sidewalks and repair of sidewalks and things, although it is good in safety, that they felt like that it was not improving like specific trails.
Okay.
Sidewalks are was for safety. That's what the dialogue was. So-
And impact fees and other things can fund projects to make the connectivity as well. I think there's a lot of other, if I remember right, because that was mentioned last meeting, that there was other funding mechanisms that exist already to fund those projects, was part of the comments.
To
What
fund and maintain sidewalks within a city. So,
Well, move up
From
one.
Wellsville?
Move up one, the city tennis
Yeah,
courts.
the city tennis courts. What was the discussion on that?
sorry, we had a short discussion. Go ahead again.
The city tennis courts. What was the discussion on that?
To resurface their tennis courts.
That one, I don't remember all of what was said on that one.
Okay. Well, I'm of the opinion that sidewalks are important. I don't know, Nolan, what's your feelings? You're a Wellsville person. Do they?
Well, as I look through this, three cities came to mind. I'd like to see Mendon, what happened on their legacy park. I'd like to see Millville, how we help them. Hiram and Wellsville, those are things that came to me as I'm talking about this money. I also would like to see, there was Cornish talked about. I'd also like to see, we talked about Cass Trails Alliance, so we won't do that one, but the Logan Downtown Alliance, the Top of Utah Marathon, just 5,000 is all they're asking for more, so I think that would be something to consider as well.
I have one that I wanted, and I spoke to Stephen Nilsson at the Development Services about the feasibility studies that they're asking for. And there was one that he said was pretty far down the road that they could probably put on hold, and that was the 101 Trail feasibility study, if I'm correct, Stephen. That was the one that was lowest on your priority list. I think we could take that one out, and because they already have the 80,000. One of the other ones, they said if they get that, they qualify for a big grant to help really update the trails. So I would like to propose taking that $40,000 out for it's number 18 on your list, for the Highway 101 trails. That would give us a little more money to put maybe towards the community or towards the feasibility study of the rec center. I think that was the only other one that I had on my list.
And the other thing, Carl, I agree with you. I think we should support the Zootopia at Willow Park and give them the 50,000 that they need.
I thought, did you see the text from Catherine?
Yeah, and I talked to her on the phone about it,
Okay,
but there's nothing to hold us back from
Okay.
providing additional.
okay, yeah.
They are getting the 10%.
They're getting the 10%.
They're getting the 10%, which was initially lauded.
Right,
Anything in excess of that, in the past, we have not
yeah.
exceeded that, so.
Okay,
Okay, that's all I have.
so should we go through them one by one?
Any others?
Mark?
Because I think you guys
All that I had
talked,
in mind were mentioned, so.
I think you guys talked about similar ones that I had. I thought about boosting at least the cruise in a little bit because of the huge draw that does at the
Which one is that? Oh,
number 28.
Okay,
You know, and that was just, I just bumped that to 5,000, up 5,000.
40.
And to 40, and then the Jump the Moon, I was hoping to get a couple $1,000s from them because it's amazing what they do on number 42.
Okay.
That an extra couple $1,000s there makes a big impact on the projects and
so change it to 20,000?
yeah, to 20,000, rounding that. Number 42. And then I had the Logan Downtown Alliance, bring that up to their asking of 20. And then I have the two for the Wellsville cities. I had one other one, but I hadn't quite
What
got.
about Mendon on their request? What was your?
What number is that?
It
Oh, number
is
48.
I thought about the Mendon one on the Legacy, but that was a huge ask for, I guess, such a smaller city, quite a small city, and we were hoping that, I think there was more money that could come in, you know, to help out on that, and there wasn't quite the matching, and that, I guess I just didn't feel like it was just as big a, you know, for such a small town. That's just as we talked about things. That was a big ask.
I do have a question on number 58. It says 2024 Paradise Town RAPS application. I don't understand what that's about. There were 62,200 awarded that. What
Yeah,
does that mean?
That's part of the park. That's a big park increase, and they were putting
park?
quite a bit with it too.
Okay,
That just happens to be, I think, the title on it,
okay.
and that's basically the title. When they typed it in, that's what they titled it as, rather than a specific thing. So,
What, Dave, you mentioned the Westville City ones. What were you saying about that?
Number 74 and 76.
Okay,
I thought about 74, boosting that one.
how much?
Boosting it to,
Taking it to 95,000. In the 76, I know the sidewalks and the application of, we really, when we looked into that, we really wish we could have seen how the sidewalks tie into an existing trail. But I thought if anything, if we can keep that one, at least maybe like this other one, at least keep it open until maybe a better part of the application, or we'd have to scrub it, and then if they can make it more detailed in the application as to how it specifically ties to the specific trails, then those sidewalk things could probably be part of that trail. So,
Just a question to that, just to make sure that I was understanding correctly. If we were to not provide them any funding on line 76 in the vote today, would that preclude them from being able to come back and ask if we did open the funding again, or meaning, I thought maybe what I heard you say was that
Well,
they would
it's
need
my
some in order to be able to then qualify
actually,
for more
the
later.
decisions on this need to be made today.
Right.
Okay, but you can, from what I understand is we can make the decisions. You can actually leave some open that we are going to change, some specific ones. You can leave them open and still get a few more, maybe a decision in a couple weeks or decision in a few weeks on those, as long as you're very specific as to which ones they are.
Okay.
We did with the suicide awareness concert not too long ago, using grant funding.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
That's my understanding. We try not to, leave those things open. We try to make those decisions
So we just do those two, hold those aside for possible future, the Wellsville City for the sidewalks, number 76, and then the recreation center when the RFP comes back in.
Well, where did we sit on 75? We said because refinishing it doesn't help for Wellsville?
uh,
Do you remember what the RAPS committee decided?
no,
on
I
that?
don't on that one. I wish I did.
So it's the re-asphalting of the tennis courts, is that what it was?
Catherine said it was refinishing their tennis court.
I cannot remember on that one. I'd have to, I should have brought the application, but I remember on the applications themselves, I mean, there's a lot of books to
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
I'd have to go look at the dialogue that we had in the video again myself to remind me on that one. I just can't remember it.
So to clarify for me, for the Zootah, they requested 320,000, they awarded 279.83. That is the percentage of, okay.
That's-
All right.
That is basically what they can is up to 10% that you can just give them, then anything else after that is, you can give it to them, but there's kind of a required portion that you can fund them up to 10%.
Catherine said that their request was an estimate of what they thought they might be getting.
Yeah.
So it wasn't specific needs.
Yeah. So we can elect to provide more, but that would be over and above what the required amount is.
And in the past, they had not quite got their 10%. We've kind of forced them to start getting the improvements going faster, and they have, so. Other comments, questions? I just want to, everyone kind of share a little bit, but I just want to share a couple things, is that, one is that despite what you've heard in some of the media and interviews and people getting on the radio and saying, I am not against recreation centers. I have never said that I am against recreation center. What we're talking about here, this is RAPS funding, okay? Now, this is a different process. Now, I have personal opinion on maybe how a recreation should be funded, a recreation center should be funded. I will say that I'm not real in favor of funding a recreation center on a county basis, but I would help cities put one together and then fund it. But they're already set up with recreation departments, with people, personnel, expertise within within the cities themselves. I know North Logan, you've got more than that. There's good people in your recreation, in recreation department, but they're set up. We would have to set that up all new, but that's in the next stages. That is actually after any kind of study that might be there. Okay, now my viewpoint on that may change as we get more development in that. That's fine, but I am also I am not in favor of growing county government when the cities can do better in their city level than the counties can. I know that. So, but that's just an opinion there is all. But as far as back on I am not against the recreation centers. I am though, how we fund it, and I really wish that there was, in talking with some people, they mentioned that it felt like, the amount that came even to development services to apply for this 200,000 was kind of rushed. And that they really weren't sure. So we need, just like when we ask the cities to come with an application and say, this is exactly what it'll cost. That's the preparation that needs to be done, rather than have it rushed to a RAPS committee. And then we have to try to understand what the other people are really thinking. And that's what I think you guys are also been asking. You wish that we had more, we knew exactly, hey, this is what it is, this is what it'll do. I think then you start rallying around that, one way or another.
Well, and that was that's the only concern I have, is the amount of money taken from available RAPS funds, taken away from communities that could use it for shovel-ready projects, and putting it into a study. And I think the study needs to be done, but I think putting that much money toward a study that we don't yet know even what the amount of the study will cost, and funding the whole rec center would simply mean, we're going to have to have a bond election. We're going to have to, the citizens of the county are going to have to decide whether or not they want to pay increased taxes to fund and pay for a bond to build something like that. And so I mean, we're a long ways away from deciding, yes, we're going to have a rec center. My concern is that putting $200,000 of RAPS money into a feasibility study just seems way out of line for me.
And as one person said to me, that's like writing a blank check. Here's 200,000, go do what you want to do with it. I think we need to have some kind of parameters on, what it's going to cost. We need to have a starting point, not just say, okay, here's $200,000, go for it. I think we need to have a starting point of where we are looking, and then have them come back.
Yeah, I agree.
I think in several ways, we're saying the same thing. Maybe I'm saying it was a bit different in the sense that I agree. We're at just beginning the process of what the feasibility study is, that kickoff. Mm-hmm. Personally, yes, I wish there was some more detail and it was more clear as to the scope of what the feasibility study would include and cost, and that's back to why I mentioned I'd like to have some conversation about the scope. And I think with, particularly if the RAPS funding at 100,000 or more to the 200,000 was something the county was putting in, and recognizing that it's really the RAPS funding, not necessarily the county's funding, but that this group and development services would have a big say in that scope. I think that's probably the case by the proposal coming from development services, is that the county would be defining that scope. Stephen, by absence of anyone else in the room that I see from development services, I'm going to defer. Is that correct? That we would be, the county would be contracting, not the cities, but the county would be putting out that RFP and be looking for the scope and defining that scope?
Would you please, Stephen?
And I think maybe we can, by going down this, pulling on this string a little bit, we can maybe get some of the answers to those that I have and that you're mentioning about the scoping, because
Is that microphone
that is the most
on?
important part of the funding.
Yeah, so essentially, to answer your question is yes. What our plan would be, we have countywide planning services that we offer, and that we're mandated by our county code to offer to the surrounding communities. So we see our job as help coordinating this project, issuing the RFP, and being the primary agency leading out this project. Because there's so many stakeholders in this, it would be I would envision it to be a very collaborative effort with the cities that are interested in participating and providing guidance, setting out that scope. But in the end, we would be the ones that would be leading out the project, would be receiving the funds and paying the contractor.
Okay. Appreciate that. Other? Okay, with that now, let's get in, you want to get into the details?
I think we need to start just going through it one at a time. Let's,
Can we have two people address this just to give us a side, or what's your thoughts there?
And again, how much do you guys want? Couple minutes each?
I'm fine with a couple minutes each.
2 minutes each? You have two that you
mayors
talk
right
to? Okay, go ahead.
It's these two right here, so.
I think that when, we would love to have county input, of course, on the scope of this, but I think when you're doing this analysis, what's already happening is that those entities in the center of the valley that are behind this are currently shouldering the outlying communities. We are. We serve a third of Richmond in North Logan through the RSL and through our rec programs. So when they come, they say, we don't see how this would benefit us. It's kind of perplexing to me, because I think it's misrepresenting what actually happens. I think you guys keep on mentioning how these funds should be better spent with other communities that have applied, and you're ripping it away from them and not funding their projects. You guys had a RAPS committee who analyzed all of these applications, and you have $380,000 left? I guess I fail to see where funding this recreation study leaves people out in the cold. So what we're saying is we are willing to spearhead this, we're willing to implement it, but we need to have this study. It is a necessary first step. This will never go to the voters if we don't know the parameters. And I think it's like saying housing is so expensive right now. If you're homeless and you're saying houses are too expensive, that's what this feasibility study is. It's neither here nor there, your opinion on whether it's too expensive. I hate giving money to consultants, but it's a necessary part of fleshing out what this proposal actually looks like. And absolutely, at that point, let's put it to the voters. I am not afraid of that, and I'm not saying I would vote for a rec center right now either. But I do have to, we do have to understand what those parameters are before we do even approach funding. So I think those are my main points. You guys brought up a bunch of things as you were talking, but we did a poll, and it's 3,500 people. Almost, we're approaching 4,000 because responses are coming in. I don't know if you'll have an issue that gets 85% support in this county. So whether you talk to, I don't know which mayors you talk to, I do not have a missed call from you, Nolan. And I don't think Brian does either. So, and this is how our county functions, right? When we're looking through road projects, we prioritize roads that everyone uses. So necessarily, the outlying communities get less money because they serve fewer people. So I guess what I want to know is, what is the overlying scope of how you prioritize which projects to fund? I haven't been able to identify one right now. If you're fixing a sidewalk in Wellsville, no offense to Wellsville, we've talked about this, tell me what function that serves for the county as a whole. Because that's what you're asking us. And I think we've answered it well. But I cannot find a consistent scope through which you view these projects. And you're not giving deference to the RAPS committee's recommendation. I don't know how to answer your questions or address your concerns because I don't think we're even speaking the same language. The last thing I want to mention is I want to know, are you guys serving the unincorporated residents in the county? And this is an honest question. Is that the lens through which you view these discussions, or do you represent all of us who, I'll make it leading, who paid county taxes, who vote for you? Because those are going to result in two different outcomes. Are we talking about the 2,000 people in the valley who are unincorporated citizens? Or are we talking about the entire valley? David, you look perplexed. I really am sincerely wondering that.
Question. We are, every district, we have the 7 districts.
Yeah.
We all represent people within that district. Unincorporated, cities,
Okay.
groups, everyone within that district is who we represent.
Okay, that is reassuring. It's an honest question that I wanted to
Whether
clear up.
it's an unincorporated city, it's just every person within that district is who you represent.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions from the committee itself?
I have a question, Lindsay. When you guys, when you say like people come to your rec program that are not within the city, do you charge them more? Is there a fee
Yeah.
that they pay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's by zip code. So they do pay nominally more.
Okay, thank you.
Some do, some don't. Some of our programs, there's no non-resident fees. Some of them, there are.
Okay, I just wondered about that.
Okay.
Brian Cox, Hyde Park, we're one that piggybacks on North Logan. Don't have recreational department, program, anything. I don't know, and because of that, because we have piggyback, I don't know if my city would vote for it because we like using other people's stuff, right? And not paying for it. But the importance of a study and a $40,000, the highway is being studied with CMPO funds. Just the highway, that was $120,000 or $140,000. That is from Logan, not Logan, but from there south. We've agreed from North Logan, Hyde Park, and Smithfield, we're going to participate, and we have to kick in our $60,000 worth for a total of $120,000 to just study the road. Hyde Park, town of 6,000 people, we just paid for a study of stormwater. That come up to about, let's see, our portion, participation, it was over $50,000 for stormwater. Putting things into perspective, when you start talking about a county-wide study that's going to benefit over 100,000 people, taking into all the things that Sandy was talking in, what would you do differently if you reach out and perform these studies? If the worst thing that I could see that you could do is if you put in a $40,000 study, you're going to get a $40,000 data. You want to be able to get quantitative and qualitative data to make a good decision. Will you get 100% of the data? No, you can't afford it. But you need to get enough data to make a good informed decision. I have no idea where the voters would fall. I have no idea where I would fall. What's it going to cost me? I'm retired. I'm one of those people on a fixed income. But I know recreation is important. I know I want my kids in recreation and not in front of an Xbox. My grandkids. My kids probably too. So it's important. So I encourage you to get the correct amount of information. How much is it? I don't believe it's 40,000. Is it 200? Is it 150? You need to find out, but it's not a $120,000 road. It's definitely not my stormwater
study that we just performed for a 6,000, people of 6,000 community, you're talking well over 100,000 in this valley. So look at the perspective of what you're trying to accomplish with this study.
Okay, Nolan, thank you.
Okay, thanks for your comments. Wanted to hear those. I'm sure there's other comments out there too, but honestly, I've wrestled with this heavily. And mayors who both spoke.
You may have called me. I have no idea what my extension is. Call myself.
I tried, so, but I didn't call you, Mayor Peterson, I didn't call you because I know where you stand, so.
How do you know?
I just spoke up for you to speak to us.
No, I'm totally kidding. I
So
appreciate it.
I probably put my butt on the line with these other people, just so I would be fair, so I'm trying to do that. I don't know, I am very much, and I apologize, 200,000 seems big right now because of a feasibility study. I'm willing to listen to what we can for an RFP, and I'm listening to the residents who have emailed, so Mayor Peterson, in your discussion, I'm listening to, hopefully, because I read every email, and I even marked those who told me where they were from. And Logan, and North Logan, and Hyde Park, and some from Hiram. So I marked those and kept track of them. So I'm trying to do my duty on that, even though some may say I'm not, but I don't want to skirt that. I know recreation is a great thing. It's just I know I want to represent and do what's right on that. But here's my concern, and that's why I've asked that we review our policy. I mean, a feasibility study is going to help, and I hope we do it in the right manner. And it's been talked about what the scope is, and I'm sure that Mr. Nelson and his department will help us get a scope that reaches that. So I just feel strongly that the RAPS tax can help individual communities too. I suspect Hyde Park and North Logan, we've given you RAPS money before, so we're trying to be consideration of all of those, so at least I am. So, and I know the others look at that, but so we're sitting with a number of 40, 150.
May I make one suggestion, that this be one that maybe is left open, and that we actually get some concrete figures, RFP, something that would actually, hey, this is what it will cost? Because, and, you know, it kind of seems like, I received all those emails and those, and some calls too, and every time you talk to someone different, this center became something different. It was an aquatic center, it isn't, you know, it just started bouncing around, I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. So I think we need to, let's get the RFP back, let's get the thing defined, let's figure it out. If we can, leave this one open, but I would like to leave it open, but only for a certain duration. In other words, I don't want to leave it open clear till next March. You know, we ought to have, probably, Stephen, could we have like an RFP, something back in concrete in what? How many months?
Probably about 2 months, 2 to 3 months.
Let's go 3 months? Would that be something like that be okay, that we, I'm not saying we solidify some money, but with the option to maybe increase, change, I don't know. Let's just, let's really figure out what we're working with before we start throwing numbers out and then eat a lot of crow later.
Well, and this is the whole point. We spent a lot of time talking about whether we ought to do a recreation center or not, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Really, is all we're trying to decide on is how much money from RAPS should be spent for a feasibility study. That's all we're trying to decide. And all of this other stuff is outside of the scope of what we're trying to accomplish here. And so I like that suggestion, Dave, about let's leave it open for 3 months and let's see what it will really cost. And I think Nolan's right. We need to set a policy going forward as far as expending RAPS funds for feasibility things and have some firm guidance going forward so that we're not in this situation again. But I don't know how the rest of you feel about just leaving it open.
Dave, when you say leave it open, are we not allocating anything today at all?
No,
or-
I think it would be wise to allocate some
Okay,
and with an option of, to add somewhere. I hate to put the whole 200,000, let's allocate some and leave it open so that when we do get the RFP, if we feel like we still want to fund it with some RAPS money, that we could later, and we'd have a more finite amount and something more concrete to actually work with, so.
Could we start with the 100,000 and say that that's our,
I say, let's put the 40 myself. Let's go with the 40, and then, hey, if it costs, if you come in RFP, it's 120, then let's work with it. You know, but, if that's what we want to do, but, we can always add to, but it's a,
I
Hard to take away.
certainly like the discussion.
but
and
it's,
support
whatever you say is fine.
keeping it open. I'll go back to what I first said, and I think 40, and as was just mentioned by Mayor Cox, who we've talked about this, I mean, you know, I feel fortunate to have had two of the mayors from the district that I represent here and be able to speak, and I'm grateful that you requested that, knowing that that's the same input I'm hearing from, you know, the mayors have accurately represented what I've heard from my neighbors and the constituency in the Northeast District. Just a side note, you know, we have, in the Northeast District, we've got two high schools, Green Canyon and Skyview, and they both have participation. The school districts are participating with the cities in managing and making that rec center, those rec centers happen, which is an example that was mentioned. You know, we've got to make sure the school districts are on board as part of this scope. So anyway, all that to say, I do think 40,000, we know that's not going to be enough. And I think it ought to be higher. So I would throw out at least 75,000.
All right,
I was gonna say,
I'll go
I would be
75.
willing to work with, I don't think 100,000, but I was gonna throw out the 75.
Yep, I had the similar thought.
And then leave it open, so when we get the concrete amounts, then we can deal, then we know what we're working with.
Okay?
Okay.
I'd go with that.
should we do that motion, that one's
Yeah,
separate?
let's, let me have that in the form of a motion, if that's gonna be
We
it.
have Stephen.
Oh, Stephen?
Sorry, just for the timing, we can definitely have the scope done in 3 months, but to get concrete bids, we're probably gonna be more about 4 or 5 months out, so we can get the RFP out and get proposals back. So we probably need a little bit more than 3 months.
That's true, because you're gonna have there's gonna be a lot of dialogue to get the scope
Can I ask you
together.
to come back, Nan? Did you, by chance, get any idea of where an RFP would be? Remember, we talked about that. Are we in the neighborhood of 75, 100, wherever we're at? Are we?
So I do have somebody I know that's a consultant. I reached out to them, but I haven't heard back.
Okay.
Chad, did you have any rough numbers? What you?
We beat this thing to death. Let's go to 75.
He's the recreation director with Nibley City.
Well, we're sitting
Well,
with
but we don't,
75 or
is the
100.
scope of Nibley's the same as what everyone else is looking at? You know,
Let's not, let's just move ahead.
I think we should just go with 75 and start
75,
there.
yep.
and how about the window, though?
Yeah, I would say 5 months would probably be adequate.
Okay with
We'll go a
that?
window of 5 months, and we'll be working at it back and forth, and then have that decision then made within 5 months.
We want it to be done right.
Okay. Okay,
I'd make that in the form of a motion.
okay,
Go fund,
Mark?
to fund the feasibility study category. I don't have the number in front of me, it just closed.
That item which,
At 75,000, and then with leaving the item open for 5 months from now to
31.
continue to evaluate.
okay, 31, number 31. Is there a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay, move second that we amend this that would be number 31, at 75,000 and leave it open for 5 months, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that one is one that we can still work with. It's open, and we'll make sure that we will have enough money to hold through that till then. So let's go through some of these others, though. If there's any amendments on those, we can work through those real quick, 1 or 2 or 3 at a time. We'll go from there.
I'd like to propose that number 18 be removed, the $40,000 for the Highway 101 Trail feasibility study.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
And that's to remove it, did you say?
I'll second that.
Okay, number 18 would be then actually not to remove it,
Oh,
but
to reduce it to 0?
to change the awarded request from 40,000 to 0.
Correct.
Okay.
Is there a second on that? Didn't we have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, you're keeping track of these. Thanks, Bryson.
We'll try and go one
Appreciate
at
it.
a time.
Okay, then can I go next? So with the 40 and with the 200 that was in the RAPS budget, that leaves us about 140, right?
Be 165.
Yes, with some other extra that we still have.
So we've talked about that. So you had mentioned Downtown Alliance for 5,000, so let's keep a running total here.
Okay, that's number 45.
Let's go down then.
She wants to go down.
Can we go down by number, just to, so we don't lose track?
Organized person, you.
I am, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm losing track.
Okay.
I can do that.
Okay, let's do this. Let's do this. Here we go. We're at 18. Anything from 18, I have one at 26.
I have one at 21, but apparently,
Yours was 28.
Okay, 21.
Cruising.
yeah.
The Beaver Creek.
That's
Okay.
the Beaver Creek Lodge Trails.
That one we said we're keeping open, didn't we not? I'd like, I mean, when I read the email, it seemed to make sense, but I want the RAPS committee's interpretation on it because I don't know everything. So.
Yeah.
It was pretty strong. I know, I just remember it was very strong as far as private property, something's, to run and spending taxpayer money through a private property and then have them gate it later.
Maybe they can come back next year with an MOU or some kind of right-of-ways to make sure that it's guaranteed to stay as a public trail, because I don't think they have that.
And just clarification, because I'm familiar with this area, but want to make sure before I ask to decide on that, would be the trail is currently on private land, but being accessed by the public.
And
But
who owns
you
that
soon as you
private
get off
land?
the trail, you're on private land,
Beaver Creek Lodge,
which is, it means it's simply a trail for snowmobiling and ATVs, horses, literally only the trail is the public access period. However, on both ends of the property, it's Forest Service. So the concern that we're talking about and the reason for the rejection is that by putting public money towards this, we're suggesting it's a public trail, and then also we would have to accept the enforcement of keeping people from coming off the trail.
Okay, I understand that. All right, I'll leave that one alone then.
I appreciate that. So
28,
on 21, should we, I think, should we leave
Just
it?
leave it, yeah,
Let's
just
leave
leave
it, and then, I think more details, input, or change it, or whatever can be agreements, or whatever can be changed between now and next year.
Yep.
We'll give them, we'll look at it then. Okay. How about
28, the cruising.
28? Yeah, not 26, 28.
You want to raise that,
I was gonna, from 5,000 to 40,000 total.
Okay,
support that?
I support it.
Second, are we okay there? Yep. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
We've already got the one on that.
And any others, guys, go ahead and share between there. We'll go on down.
Can you stop at 36?
And anything until 36? Okay, 36,
What was the reps thinking on that?
I think it was just because of a smaller town and everything, they didn't want to fund all of it, the whole 80,000. But they are putting quite a bit into it themselves. They always have. Cornish comes up, the only problem is on that is that usually Cornish does, they maybe only get like 15, 20% of money, and then they manpower it and do it all themselves, because they have really, it's a neat kind of camaraderie, what they do out there. But this one, the parking lot itself, because of the asphalt and everything, it has to be done so much by,
It has to be contracted.
somebody else. They can't come in and do all the tractor work and all that kind of stuff, so, that's up to you guys. I'd be in favor of raising that one myself, but,
If we've got 140, let's play it in there and see where we get and come back and adjust if we need to. Is that okay?
okay, so 36 will be
So that's another 5, so we've committed 10 so far.
So go at 80,
You're saying that
80,000 on 36?
Are you gonna be able to give us a running total, Bryson, when we get to the bottom? Okay.
so.
I'm at 10, where are you
So
at?
Cornish, you want to raise Cornish up to,
I take it up by 5.
up by 5 to 80,000.
Okay.
Which item is that?
Number 36.
36. Hiram City, I'd also like to talk about that.
Okay,
Which number is that? Oh, 41.
Ball field improvements.
Yes.
and that was a huge ask, and we were hoping, I think with that, I think in the past, we were hoping that they come back, because you have a 2-year wrap, so they could get started and going, and then maybe come in on the second half the next year for
Okay.
help.
I'll accept that explanation.
That's, again, you guys, we need to understand, and some people thinks that the RAPS committee is this glorious, that they have all this say. They really don't. It's just an advisory committee. It says, here, we'll look through it, and then it's really the county council, they're the ones that allocate the money.
Okay,
We appreciate you going through all those applications.
Yeah, well, it's a ball of fun.
Foot-high pile of paper.
You've been through it too, Carl, I know.
hey, you wanted to take 42 up by 2,
Jump the
But
middle.
up to 20,000, yeah, up
so
to
that's
2.
another 2.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Make that motion?
Second it.
Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then 45, is that, anything from there to 45?
Would go up 5.
Yeah, and give them their full ask.
So does that put you at 17 now? Yeah. Ooh, we're trucking, man.
Okay.
So is that a motion?
Yes.
Second.
On number 45, Logan Downtown Alliance, up 5 to 20. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And now these are just amendments, and then we'll vote on the whole package
Right.
at the end. So, okay.
So I'd like to talk 48, 49, and 50.
Okay? Their ask was, if you look at that, that's almost $600,000+ for smaller town, where you got Hiram, you got Smithfield, and these other towns that are, quite a bit bigger, and even had like less asks.
Wait a minute, Mendon's 3, Millville's 3.
Oh, excuse me, I'm talking Mendon.
Okay.
It's just, it's 300. And see, that's the full ask of a lot lot more of the larger towns, so.
Right, but
But if they can get portion of it, they do portions of it and everything, and they incrementally do it over the next few years, I know it helps them.
so I'm asking 5 or 10 based on what we've got to work.
Whatever,
5 and 10 on what?
5 or 10 on Mendon.
you know what, if you took that to 100,000, I think they would be very, I know they'd be appreciative of it.
Okay, we go that and see where we're at.
20,000?
Take it up 20 to 100,000 on number 48, is there a second on that?
Second?
Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so 48 is up 20K. Okay. How about any others now? Millville's. Do you say Millville too?
I did. I just looked at their requests, the same as Wellsville, so.
But if we take the 30,000 to the 40,000 for their pickleball lights?
I think they'd appreciate it anywhere there. That's up to you guys.
Let's do that. I'll support that, Sandy.
What's that? Say that again?
Number
50.
Number 50 to let,
To 40, so
help them
complete
fund
their
that.
ask?
Yep,
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Second it.
Okay.
seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, how about any others? Now, this is the last year, from what we understood from the RAPS committee, this is the last year that there are those few cities that came together and requested so much every year, were given that much every year when they did their parks. This is supposed to be the last year that they
Do not participate.
that they weren't supposed to, but we've had a few requests creep in from those cities, even though they said they wouldn't. And I think that what I always refer to as the syndicate, I think that is completely, I think we're completely done with that next year. So,
Okay, I didn't see any others, but I'm gonna jump to 74 unless anybody disagrees.
that's where I'm
Yeah,
at.
Yep.
This is my next one.
I'd like to take the basketball courts up by 20,000 and then give consideration to the tennis courts.
Okay, and I had it up to, I had it on the 74 to raise it 15,000, but I'll go 20, that's great.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes there. Have it 76 at all, or do you want to,
Well, I got beat up on 76, so I'm going to 75.
Remember?
is it, well, let's, that we can do that in the form of a motion, that we leave 76 open, and if they can, and for a duration, and then if they can provide us with how those sidewalks interconnect with some trails, we'll look at it later. That's up to you guys.
Yep.
I'm okay with that.
I don't want to give you guys more work, but I think if we can give them that option, they'll look at it and come back and then,
2 months?
yeah. I don't want to, we start setting too much precedence on all
Yeah.
this stuff, we will never, this thing will be a year-round process.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
is that it? Now, that was a motion?
To set it aside
Again?
for 2
Yeah,
months?
let's hear it again.
To give them 2 months to come back and show a plan that shows how those trails and sidewalks interact with their other trails. Their application
I
did
think it
not
was
show
part
that.
of it, but yeah, we'll let them come back, but I'd
Okay.
still like to talk about 75.
So let's just allocate some right there for right now, and then leave it open on number 76.
Okay.
So you,
Then I would go, if we're talking half, I'd go 20 or 25.
this is 76,
Right.
correct?
25?
Yep, I'm a
Okay,
second
let's go
that.
25. And second on that?
Second?
Moving second, that we go at 25 and leave it open for 2 months, right?
Okay, do we need to leave it open? Okay. We can.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Where you at,
opposed?
Bryson? 92?
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes on that one. Okay, any others?
Can we talk 75?
And 75 is the tennis courts.
Do you remember the, who else is on the RAPS committee besides you and Catherine?
It's just us two.
Oh, it's just you two. Okay.
Trying to remember the dialogue. I remember there was I heard one comment, it wasn't by me, I heard one, because I'm a tennis player. I heard one comment, they said tennis is out. Okay, whatever that means. Is tennis out?
I don't think it's out.
I think the glorified ping pong pickleball is ruling now, but I don't know. But I don't know, that one was, I just don't know why. I wish I'd have to go back and watch the video, to be honest with you. It just, my mind could have been on other things at the time when we discussed it too, so I wish I knew more. So. So it's whatever your pleasure is on 75, you guys tell me.
10 to start?
10? Yeah, I'll support that.
Okay, we'll put 10 down on 75.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Any others?
I want to discuss Zutah. I don't know, I really think Zutah Willow Park does an awesome job, and that families really do gravitate toward them. So maybe the 50,000 isn't the amount to go, but I think we should give them a little extra,
What if we went another 20?
another 20. I have that written down here.
Is that in form of a motion?
Yep.
Sounded like one to me.
Second?
Eh, All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that'll increase 20,000.
So where we at, Bryson?
So,
Plus the 92, plus the 20, they just allocated to,
Well, we did 10,
oh, that's right, so
10, so now we're at 122, right? Right. So we had 140.
Still have
I'm fine
some
with putting
residual.
some in the kitty
okay.
for RFPs or whatever else. Does that work?
And it is always, to me, it is good practice to always carry some over to the next year, because there are
I'm
something,
gonna go home and have a Mountain Dew without ice now.
but it just, and I say just in case, because we have had some, I won't say emergencies, but we have had some, I will say, like a festival, of the opera kind of thing that came in a mid-year that, hey, there's something drastic happened and they needed a bump in some help. We've had to, but without a little bit of that, just to kind of get you through till the next cycle comes through, I think it's valuable that we have a little bit in residual. But again, that's up to you.
No, I think we should have some.
I feel that's smart.
Okay,
Yeah.
so should we, how do you feel about everything, guys? You okay with that then? Yep. I would entertain a motion then to basically accept those amendments as such.
So moved.
And then, well, we accepted the amendment, but now to accept the funding of the RAPS committee as amended, and understanding those ones that were left open.
It's a huge thanks to the RAPS committee, because we tore apart everything, but you guys did a lot to help us, but this was a strange year too.
Yeah, I've been on that committee before, and it is hard. A lot of study to go through, a lot of things to look through, so I do appreciate Dave,
It's,
Catherine.
Yep,
Yeah.
thank you for that.
I've been on it a long time, and so
Yes,
it's
you
probably time for me to, I think, I've just seen some huge strides in the diversity of everything, and just so many good organizations and groups and everything that are now benefiting from that. I just think it just adds totally to the community. I have seen that and seen groups and that start flourishing and getting some, revival to them. And I sit there and I go, that's what it's, and towns that never had anything to do, are starting to get something that they can actually now kind of plan on for a year and getting something done in their own little parks and areas. And I think it's valuable, so valuable. So anyway, with that, I'll entertain a motion, or, because we got to do something tonight.
I will move that we approve the RAPS committee recommendations as amended by this council tonight.
With the opened.
With the open, right,
The open requested ones that with the council.
yep.
Okay, and the seconded, it's been moved and seconded. All those is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Go get the Mountain Dew.
Thanks for the heavy lift. I know.
It'll be a six-pack, man. See you guys.
Okay, now where the heck were we?
Where are we on the agenda?
Number 11.
I hope this is a fast one.
It is, I'm doing it.
Yes, but, okay. At this point, 11A, the resolution is in there.
Yep.
Go ahead and share.
Okay, this is a pretty simple resolution. When I met with the people that are doing the broadband services here in this valley, there is a state grant money that's going to be available to help provide broadband.
Yeah, could you shut the party down there, Bryson? You're in charge of that.
Anyway, there is state grant money available for providers, commercial providers who are willing to go and provide the broadband service to some of our underserved areas in the county. And it's pretty costly to do. It can be really costly, especially where people are so spread out. And so to help incentivize that and help our residents, we went to Stephen Nelson and also Bart at the roads department to say, if they come to us and they want to look at going down the county roads. Huh?
Matt.
Oh, Matt,
Yeah.
yeah. I see. I
Cause
said
say, we
Bart.
have, I want to know, do we hire someone or
No, it's
another?
Matt.
We
It was
can't
Matt
take
Phillips.
3 Barts, okay?
It was Matt. It wasn't Bart.
Sorry.
No, thank you for correcting me.
No, you're fine.
Anyway, he said they would be more than willing to waive the encroachment fee when they did their application, they would waive that encroachment fee. And so by passing this resolution, we can give this to them as they apply to the state. That can just be part of their in-kind support to say, hey, the county supports this. They're willing to give up these fees. And just so you know, the normal fee for that is $250. It's not a vast amount of money. So it won't hurt us to do that. And there's already in county code, it says that the roads department has the ability to waive fees. Like if the city applies and they're working in tandem with the city, they don't charge them. Like they have that ability to make those determinations, and they are willing to do that and put it in writing so that the broadband companies can use this as part of their application to the state. So that's what this is. I don't know if anyone has any questions or.
Makes sense, and I'll move that we approve it.
Well, did it, first of all, has it been through O&P?
No, it has not. This happened quickly.
I was
And
gonna
it's,
say,
and
we
it
don't-
really
It's just a waiver of
doesn't.
fees, it's not an ordinance.
Yeah, it's really not an ordinance. It's gonna, because they can do it anyway. They can choose to or not. They're just declaring that they're willing to do that for the broadband companies.
So the biggest effect is whoever goes, it's the 250 waiver.
So it's not gonna hurt the county, and it just gives them, as they apply to the state, it shows that the county is supportive of this.
Do we have pretty good cell phone reception throughout the county for all the providers? Do you know?
Everywhere but the fairgrounds.
Because
There are a
there
few
has been some
pockets.
amazing internet services come through the cellular providers,
That's,
so.
Yeah, there are some that go on the poles, there's some that wanna put it in the ground. There's a lot of different
Radio
options.
waves and everything, so.
Yeah, there's a lot of different options they can look at, and this is pretty minimal.
So does OMP have to look at this, or can we?
anytime, it's really, it's always been kind of like, we like to run it through them to.
Then I wouldn't think we'd want to change. Is there
But
a
is there-
rush on this?
It's not a,
Yeah, it's not a policy.
it's not a
just
policy.
resolution. But if you guys want to wait on it, that's fine. I just know the application process starts in the next week or two.
To me, yes, this is a resolution here, but by setting a precedence, it kind of goes along with policy.
Okay?
And I feel like that's.
When is the next
That's
policy?
what I'm saying.
Oh, next OMP?
14th.
And if somebody applies, we can give them a refund of 250 or whatever, so.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that. And when Micah and I looked at this, we thought it would be okay, but I have no problem with that, doing it correctly. Let's get it done right and not set a precedent.
Well, and I think too, if we don't do this, then we're gonna have somebody else come along. Well, you did it for these
Right.
people, you know,
So,
then why
let's
can't
maintain
I
it
do it? So I
the
think
same
we
way.
should
Okay.
take care of it.
Well, and hopefully we have seen the danger of something not being presented at O&P.
Right.
And then it got slid through on another resolution that changed a very, very important ordinance. And so that's why I think it's valuable that we keep that standard going at least.
So if that
And
works,
if it,
okay, Sandy.
if
Oh,
that'll,
perfect,
if we
yes.
can,
Yeah.
if we can at least do that and then have it come even to the next meeting if O&P is between now and then, I think that
Yeah,
would be
O&P
wise.
is
But I
the
appreciate, I'm glad, I appreciate you
trying to
doing this and everything, but I think let's just keep going through that same process so that we keep
Okay.
that pure, so.
The only problem with the OMP is on the 14th, but the next meeting is the 11th
Of the county council.
of the county council. So can it hold off until the 25th or no?
I think by then the application time is over. And really, this is more symbolic than anything else, but, so I don't know that it really is gonna make I'd rather do the right thing for our precedent and for our county policy than, but I can let them know that we will, you know, even Matt Phillips, he said he's very, very open to waiving those fees, that it's not gonna be a big deal. And the other thing, the bottom, the last paragraph says that the county wants people to establish a franchise agreement. We passed a franchise agreement with All West earlier this year, and I misunderstood that, and Nolan kind of got the wrong idea too. When we first hear the word franchise agreement, you think of something being exclusive. That's not the case in this case. A franchise agreement just means that both parties agree to certain stipulations, and it protects us from anyone destroying our property and not replacing it, but it protects them. Like if someone puts in a line through one of our county roads or along the right of way of our county road, but they didn't sign a franchise agreement with us, we have the right to go in and say, we need that now, you have to move your lines. So it behooves them to sign a franchise agreement with us, and the county roads department would really prefer that they do that, and it protects both parties. So that's what that paragraph means, just so everyone understands that.
Appreciate that, that's good.
Okay, yeah, I'm fine with putting it off.
Well, let's do that, and maybe if something can come up that O&P changed, or a small, a mini, just a little shorter one or something like that was put together, you know, or, I don't know.
Yeah, if they want to meet on the 7th, the only problem is I will not be in town on the 7th, but if they wanted to meet on the 7th, could one of the other council members come in? And so that it would be ready for the 11th.
I think
That would help.
O&P up a week. So
Yes, is
On
that
the 7th?
okay, Mark?
Yeah, I could make that. For some reason, I think we moved it back a week, didn't we? Was there a conflict?
We moved it to the 14th because I'm out of town.
Oh, we did that because you were out,
Yeah,
that's right.
because I'm
that's
out
right.
of town, but if we want to move it back to the 7th and have another council member come in so that we have that representation, then it would be ready for the meeting on the 11th, if someone's willing to do that.
I can do that, if you
Okay.
want me to do that, if you're okay. I don't know what other
That'd be-
important things they're discussing.
Yep, that would be great.
It would be, well, the presentation Micah gave would be one of them
Yeah.
on the 3-digit codes
Okay.
and the, you know, the financials.
What time is that meeting, Barbara?
It's at 8:30 in the morning.
Let's see if we can do that then, and
Okay.
then we'll have it ready for the next meeting.
Thank you, okay.
Thank you all.
No,
Like I
and
said, this is more
yeah.
symbolic, but it might help.
Okay.
People that live where they can't get high-speed internet, it really impacts their life and their
Yeah.
ability to do a lot of things.
Okay, I think
I
that
don't
would
miss
be
it.
the thing to do, is just,
Okay,
and thank you, Sandy, for being willing
What's
to
high-speed
do
internet?
that.
okay,
Is high-speed internet, is it basically, it's there before you think about it?
yes.
So,
Okay. Okay, let's see, I believe that's it. We've got, other business, it's just the different parades, participation there. We probably got a little bit of time.
yeah.
Bring that to the next
Do we
meeting.
know when, okay, yeah, that's good.
When is our next meeting though? June
11th.
11th?
Of
Okay.
Yeah.
June.
Yeah, I'm not, because I'm not sure about those dates. I think I'm gone the 4th of July.
Okay, let's jump down to a 12D. And discussion of reintroducing the County Agriculture Advisory Board.
Mr. Chair, if I could speak to this for just a moment.
Would you? Because
So just to clarify a couple of things, we don't need to reestablish the board. The board is already created. We revisited this in 2022 in September.
Right.
And updated the code for the Agricultural Protection Board. State code changed, and so we had to make some changes to our county code in 2022. There are not any other changes that I'm aware of that we need to make, but it is my understanding that I don't think that there is a.
No, that's the agriculture protection.
Correct.
When people file for those things, but this is one that,
Agricultural Advisory Board, that I'm not aware of. But the Agricultural Protection Board.
Yeah, that one's-
Protection Area Advisory Board, That's the one that we addressed in 2022. So
Right,
if
that
this
one's-
is a separate board.
Right, I thought it was too. We had put together and,
There is an agricultural advisory board in state code that's statewide, but as far as what's on our
well,
code currently, it's
this
just for.
person says that they had contacted Executive Zook, and he says that he was working with you, with your office about this County Agriculture Advisory Board.
I was under the impression we were talking about the agricultural protection
Okay,
area advisory.
then we need
So
to,
we're on a different page then.
Yeah.
apparently, what that,
Well, or she might just be not defining the board accurately. I think she probably is, knowing her, it's probably the advisory protection board or protection board that she's talking about.
okay.
Can we talk
And
about,
that one only really, it comes up when there is an application.
There is a question on that. I'm not sure if there are board members appointed to that, but just so you're aware, state code requires that the legislative body, and this is a little bit unique, that the county legislative body is the one who appoints the members to that board. So if you want that board to be active and working, the people who make that appointment, in this case under state code, is the county council.
okay, I was here in 2022, before I was a member of the council, when you guys discussed this, the difference between those two bodies and what their functions would be, and I don't remember exactly what you resolved, but if we can go back to a 2022 meeting, that might clarify, because I can't remember, there was a different function for each of those groups, and the one includes a member of the other, like it's automatic, that the member of one is automatically.
They become the Ag Protection Board
Yeah,
too.
yeah, it was, I can't remember the,
So
but it was
we last
explained very
changed it
well.
in September of 2022, so we can take a look at those
Yeah.
minutes. and-
Is
Look
that
at those
something you can go back and look at, Bryson?
Yeah, because I remember being here and thinking,
Let's
heard
dig
you guys
in,
discuss it.
let's get to the details of everything, exactly what is required and everything, so we can activate that and get that going. Okay, thank you. Appreciate you looking into that, and we'll, Bryson,
Mr. Chair.
spare time, huh? Okay. You got good people.
Mr. Chair, while you were having that conversation, Bart reminded me that we can access the previous meetings' agendas in our packets. And do we know what month?
it was September of 2022.
September 27, 2022.
Okay, so we all have access to that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that was one that, okay, let's go council member reports then. Carl, let's start down there.
Nothing else to say tonight.
Councilmember Nolan Gunnell and I met with the executive last week, had a good discussion, talked about some things that we would like to be emphasized, and one of the things that we talked about with him too was that maybe all of us could sit down and have a planning session where we put forth, like, what are the things that we would like the executive's office to work on with this? Like, one of the things I brought up was a senior center. Our senior center, we just found out, has no fire suppression system. It's a problem. So that's, I'm concerned about that. I would like the executive to focus on that, and he said he would. First of all, what would it cost to make it, to just do a Band-Aid on it for now? And then,
That's under his department.
It
That's
is.
one of his departments anyway.
yes, it is.
So-
So we would like to get a report on that, and he said that he would even, put resources and thought process into how do we get a new senior center, and maybe it's a part of this feasibility study, but it needs to happen quickly. Like, this is important. And, anyway, what else, Nolan? I thought it was a good meeting. Nolan brought up there was a little more clarity on the Cherry Peak, the application for Cherry Peak.
Special use
The
permits.
special use permit, in the past, some of those special use permits were allowed. The most recent one was not allowed, and it has not been, it is
Stephen,
not-
you sent that letter out denying that, did you not?
Yeah, it was denied, and I don't think they have appealed that, have they?
So
Yeah.
the letter we sent wasn't an actual denial. It was a letter informing them that we were going to deny any applications this year.
But they haven't put one in yet, right?
Correct.
Okay, I wanted to make
But
sure.
they're still
we-
advertising those concerts though, right?
So they've advertised it that there will be less than 1,000 people there, which meets the terms of their conditional use permit.
Okay.
We're gonna monitor it, but thus far they're advertising what would comply with our code.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and anyway, I thought it was a good discussion. We got cut short because the audit committee meeting was coming up right on it, and so we will do that again, and we'll just have different parts of the council there to express concerns or get information.
Good.
I thought it was funny. I thought I was the only one who didn't like the chairs in the executive's office. It
Oh,
was like
no, yeah,
looking up.
I refuse to sit in them.
Sat in them one time, I was like, what?
They're-
You know how I feel.
Okay.
I really don't have anything. Again, thank you to the RAPS committee. I know what it's like to be on that committee and appreciate that. I think, and I really meant it when I said thank you to all the people who contacted me. It was very enlightening to me, and I enjoyed talking to people. And I will have to say, everyone that contacted me or whoever I talked to were very civil about everything, and I appreciated that very much. Mr. Bingham.
Yes. We'll bring him up here in a second. too.
Okay, we need to set up a time, you and I, to talk. So, other than that, that's it.
Okay, you did the same thing. I was gonna recognize Wes, so thanks for being here.
Can I take just a moment?
Let's go ahead and let's finish these last two report, and then we'll have you come up there. Perfect, though. Thank you.
So I am taking time to meet with Wes tomorrow. He seems to be
Awesome.
engaged on getting us ready for the budget and everything. I'm also meeting with Steve as we talk about fees and stuff, right, from the development services, and we'll bring those back around because we need to get in.
I was told we can just waive all of them.
That's my vote.
Yeah, does
my vote.
development services have that latitude?
I will say, we met with the sheriff
Yes.
this last week
We
and
did.
got
I forgot.
some ideas on his budget and where that's heading to, so.
Okay, that's all I had.
I really appreciated our discussion and the deliberation. On the RAPS thing, I too also as well received many emails and correspondence. Mine, I think, was heavier on the support because of the, obviously, this means a lot to North Logan and Hyde Park. They were here and have spoken now adamantly about it. So anyway, but I appreciate the open dialogue and grateful for the opportunity to share ideas. I think we came up with a great compromise, to use a sometimes dangerous word, but I think I'm grateful for the discussion. Sandy and Nolan, I apologize for not being able to make the meeting with the executive. I had discovered I had a conflict with a Bear River Watershed Council meeting at the same time where they were touring some sites, and the part of the system that our canal's on was a part of that tour, so wanted to be there. So apologize for having to step out of that. But let's see. The only other thing I wanted to bring up, it was going forward, at the next county library meeting. I think there will be a lot of discussion, and I hope, and one thing I suggest kind of maybe lead the conversation toward would be coming up with the top 5 priorities and kind of the kickstart for the discussion to bring to this body, what do we see the county library system being in 5 years, 10 years, kind of, get a scope or a 5-year, 10-year plan. The reason being is that there's going to have to be a decision made soon to either stay with the physical location we currently use in Providence, which is a Providence city-owned facility. There's a contract for managing cost sharing. And River Heights participates in that with Providence on their side, kind of, but River Heights is pushing towards maybe relocating to a building that they have that they got, the city has obtained elementary school. There's questions of whether or not it's suitable for use, and there's all sorts of conversation about it. So, but the question will come up of, do we locate to a different location because we have outgrown the current location we are using? They are maxed out with the growth that is happening in our county library system. Just for clarity, of course, by their location in Providence, the majority users are Providence, River Heights, Nibley, you know, and that's because of where it's physically located. So there's a lot of conversation about, well, you know, if there was one on the north side of the valley, what would that look like? And we do have more libraries on the north side operated by municipalities than we do on the south, but there are, you know, some. So that's kind of why I was, in my head, and I'm tying together the conversation with rec center, senior center, library. That's all community center conversations. So I'd like to get some detail from the current library board on what they, you know, at least what the board feels like the 5-year, 10-year plan would look like, so we can have that already going to maybe plug into this feasibility study if we choose to go that direction. My main thing on that would just simply be what I love about the current rec centers of Logan, North Logan, Hyde Park, participating with North Logan and Smithfield, is it's a co-use. They're working and usually operating those programs out of an existing high school. And so the facility that we, the public, already own is being more utilized than it would otherwise. So with the library discussion, it's just pulling that all together, getting more efficient use out of existing public structures is where that conversation I feel like is going. So anyway,
And
if
also,
there's any input that the council would like me to take to the library board, please reach out between now and I think our next, I don't have the date on the top of my head, but it'll be by July.
I just want to throw something out there. We have to really sit back as a council and say, okay, we know we're over the senior center. We know we're over the library. Are we ready to accept we're going to be over the recreation center? And how do we bring those together if we're doing that? So there needs to be a discussion on that. And I agree, I've been talking about high schools and recreation centers because hopefully, because you've got a good point, and I've been asking about that too, but it seems like a lot of people say there's too much conflict, but I think the study is going to bring conflict of cost too, so.
Sure.
and I will say that Giselle from the senior center, we were supposed to go to Salt Lake one day last week, but we had to reschedule, and now she'll be out of town, so I don't know when we'll go. But she said there are a couple of senior centers in the Davis County, Salt Lake area that have a combined senior center and library, and she said it is fabulous, the way the older people interact with the library. Those two things are very, very compatible, and she would, you know, if we're gonna do something north and south, those two things are really good together. As far as a rec center, it could be like if the county owns the campus and the parking lot and all that, that could work. But as far as having the seniors and the rec center use the same building, I don't see that happening. They combined one in Brigham City and the seniors just quit coming. It's just not, they need their own space. And so hopefully as they do that feasibility study, if they want to include that in their scope, that would be, we'd have to give them a lot of information about that.
Does Giselle have an idea of where the seniors are coming from who are using it?
Absolutely. She has minute detail. 51% from Logan City, 49% the rest of the county.
So what we heard tonight is there's multiple use in a lot of things, not just in recreation centers and
Yeah.
stuff too, so.
Yeah. So,
And just kind of to add to that, at least explain where I'm envisioning this and thinking that this is what we're talking about. You know, the rec center or the community center conversation, it's not just building. I mean, it's you know,
maintaining.
the facilities. So I'm talking, all of the operating costs, yes. But we're talking all the tennis courts, basketball courts, indoor, outdoor. We're talking the soccer fields and all those things. So a senior center right next to the busiest or nexus where you're going to have the busiest for kids and stuff is not, you know, obviously we wouldn't choose that. the idea is that it's,
Separate.
a lot of infrastructure is involved. It's a big thing, no question. But the right fit is my point. Mentioning it again is that, yeah, that's also part of the scoping we're talking about, is the right fit for what's located adjacent versus across the parking lot on the opposite side, but shared parking lot or whatever. All of that is in the scoping. But I think as far as, you build, one contractor to build the building, and then you add the library to the side, and we do it at once, that makes things cost less if we choose to do that. I'm not saying we need to, should, or whatever, but it's just,
If we're gonna maintain a
community
county
center
library.
concept is not just one physical location, it's all the programming.
Yeah, it's kind of a large scope. Okay.
Okay, the only thing I had before we move on here is that you guys maybe don't remember the crashed engine, the engine that got hit up in Lewiston. It's finally fixed.
Was it a fire engine?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
there's a big one. It saved some lives, how they park it and everything, and it saved some of the firemen that were responding to an accident. It saved their lives, but there was damage, and it finally got fixed. So
deal.
it's completed. So anyway, yeah, I thought that was pretty neat to hear that today. Other than that, come up and introduce yourself and say that you're gonna solve the world's problems.
I first apologize for standing you up today.
No, I assumed that, you might have forgotten or something had come up, so we can obviously reschedule.
On vacation, and I didn't get it written down right.
It happens.
Well, he
So-
called me, and I don't know, where was I at the time?
You were
Boston? I
Nova
can't
Scotia.
Right.
So, my name's Wes Bingham. Just to introduce myself, I grew up in Box Elder County in a little farming community called Bothwell. Had family, some family property and stuff over here in College Ward area. Spent a lot of my youth coming over to Cache County. Beyond doing grocery shopping in Tremont, and we did a lot of our shopping here locally in Logan. So very familiar with the area, really kind of considered an extension of where I grew up. I'm a USU graduate. My wife is a Skyview high school graduate and a USU graduate. So we'll have 3 daughters here at Utah State within about a year's time. And anyway, that's a little bit about me. I'm a CPA. Originally got my license back in 2007. I've been in government finance for 10 years between the city of Heber and Wasatch County School District. So the other thing that we will need to look at too will be property tax associated with fire district. We're already gathering information, working with the tax commission, to essentially separate those taxes between what would be a general fund tax and a fire district tax.
Municipal services type thing? Is that what you're
So
looking at?
it's my understanding is it's a special service district that has been set up, and we've just never gone through the process of separating the tax from the general mill.
Go slow.
Okay.
Please go slow on that one.
So the other thing that I've been working with the department heads, I want to look at fees a little bit and try to match as much revenue as possible with expenditures associated with the different areas, so that maybe we don't have a significant property tax increase, and that we're focusing our fee increases on people who are using those services. So glad to be here, and yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate your ideas.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'll be, again, continuing to reach out to council members. I just want to understand your budget policies and priorities so that we can make sure they get included in part of the budget and it's part of the process. I like to reach out to council members. In the past, we've done a strategic planning meeting maybe early in the budget process, council members, just to understand what your policies and priorities are. So, that's the kind of the gist of the meeting. And anyway, I'll be reaching out.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate that. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone else? Shut up, I guess. Nay,
Too late.
okay.